Ќе пробаме тон. Еден, два. Океј. Македонски.
Good afternoon.
Përshëndetje, mirë se erdhët.
Thank you for your interest. Let me introduce the panel here. We have the head of election observation mission, Matteo Micacci, and the deputy head of mission, Stefan Krause. After the statements will be made, there will be an opportunity for questions from the journalists. And now I pass the floor to Mr. Micacci.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kira. And good afternoon, dear guests, colleagues, excellencies. First, I would like to thank all of you, of course, for attending this press conference of the ODIHR Election Observation Mission, which we are holding today following the second round of the mayoral elections. My name, as was mentioned by Kira, is Matteo Micacci, and along with the ODIHR team, I arrived in Skopje almost 2 months ago. Since then, our mission has observed the various stages of the local elections across the entire country. And our work has continued following the first round of the local election, which was held on October 19. And in addition to our core team of experts and analysts here with me in Skopje, 5 teams of long-term observers continued observing the electoral process at the municipal and regional level. This took place in 32 municipalities and the city of Skopje, where the second rounds were held yesterday. Before I proceed with the preliminary statement, I would like once again to thank the authorities of North Macedonia for their cooperation, as well as state institutions, political parties, all the candidates, the media, civil society organization, and of course, the citizens of North Macedonia for their engagement with us and for their hospitality. Today, I am presenting the ODIHR statement of preliminary findings and conclusions for the second round of the local elections. And this statement is the result of the detailed and comprehensive work of both our analysts and long-term observers. And while we did not deploy short-term observers across the country yesterday, our teams observed election day procedures at a sample of polling stations nationwide. And before I read it, let me once again say that elections are not only about election day. And that means that also observing elections is not only about election day. This is why the ODIHR methodology requires our election observation missions to look at the entire electoral process and analyze all its aspects, before, during, and after election day. From candidate registration to access to the media, from voter registration to campaigning, and from election dispute resolution to campaign finance. All these aspects are essential for our assessment. Ultimately, it is the responsibility of state and local institutions, of political parties, candidates, the media, civil society organizations, and citizens to organize elections and ensure that they are democratic and participatory. Our role is to provide a professional and impartial assessment of their compliance with international standards and offer assistance in that regard. With this statement, which should be read alongside the statement that we published 2 weeks ago after the first round, we assess the extent to which the second round of the 2025 local elections in North Macedonia complies with OSCE commitments, other international democratic standards, and national legislation. Now I will read it. The 2nd November, second round mayoral elections offered voters a choice between distinct political alternatives, but not all candidates enjoyed equal campaign conditions. In particular, the deficient allocation formula for political advertising significantly distorted the playing field in the media in several mayoral elections. The campaign in most municipalities was competitive, but divisions along ethnic lines defined some contests. The continued involvement of government officials in the campaign, as well as persistent allegations of pressure on public sector employees and voters, and numerous allegations of vote buying, were of concern. The election administration managed preparations efficiently and transparently, despite important procedural aspects of the second round not being clearly regulated in law, and continued to enjoy the trust of most stakeholders. The State Election Commission's handling of first-round complaints raised concerns about due process and the right to an effective remedy, while the Administrative Court reviewed appeals thoroughly and in accordance with established procedures in public sessions. Limited campaign finance reporting requirements and the absence of oversight actions undermine transparency and public trust and reduce accountability of the electoral process, contrary to international good practice. On election day, in the limited number of polling stations observed by the ODIHR Election Observation Mission, the various stages of the process were assessed as well-organized, professional, and calm, with established procedures generally adhered to, although the tracking of voters was of concern. What I just read to you is the first paragraph of the Statement of Preliminary Findings and Conclusions, and I will now add some additional remarks. The 2025 local elections in North Macedonia attract significant attention from institutions, political parties, and the media. Although the campaign was overall competitive and candidates could generally campaign freely, divisions along ethnic lines and citizen disillusionment with politics persisted. The low turnout in both the first and second rounds indicates a decreased voters' engagement. As I mentioned, we have been observing the electoral process since early September, and the legal framework provides a technical basis for holding democratic elections. However, numerous inconsistencies and gaps remain particularly concerning regarding the electoral administration, media access, and the system for resolving election disputes. The election administration worked efficiently and transparently and enjoyed the trust of most stakeholders. At the same time, important procedural aspects of the second round are not yet clearly regulated by the law. As I have already mentioned, the handling of complaints related to the first round by the State Election Commission undermined the right to an effective remedy and raised concerns about due process contrary to OSCE commitments and international standards. Fundamental freedoms were respected and contestants were able to campaign freely. However, continued involvement of high-level officials in the campaign blurred the line between state and party, while allegations of pressure on public sector employees and of vote buying persisted. The allegations of vote buying have been persistent throughout the entire campaign, and the competent institution should thoroughly investigate them. ODIHR's media monitoring showed that during the second round, the overall coverage continued to be balanced, but the allocation formula for paid advertising once again favored larger parties and disadvantaged smaller and independent candidates. The online campaign remained active, highlighting the need to promote responsible political discourse in the digital space. These findings illustrate a process that overall was well organized and in which citizens had a range of political choices, but it is still marked by systemic gaps in the legal framework and unequal campaign opportunities. The ODIHR mission will remain in the country to observe the remaining stages of the electoral process, including the official announcement of results and the handling of possible post-election day complaints and appeals. When I arrived in Skopje last September, at the beginning of the month, it wasn't my first visit to this country. But this time I had a chance to learn more about its history, visit new region, experience its beauty, and also to get to know the character of your people and your hospitality. This is a land in the heart of Europe with a rich history, a history that has brought us to our continent hope, progress, and development, but also many struggles and setbacks. 50 years ago, in Helsinki, the OSCE participating states embarked on a very ambitious journey to cooperate among themselves despite the existence of many and deep differences. That path was chosen for geopolitical reasons, but also to fulfill the hopes of their citizens for a better future. They agreed and developed a comprehensive concept of security, one that is interconnected and dependent on both economic development and democracy. For all OSCE participating states, democracy, which literally means rule by the people, is not just a box to check every 4 or 5 years. As I stated at the OSCE Copenhagen meeting in 1990, and I quote, "Our countries undertake to build, consolidate, and strengthen democracy as the only system of government of our nations." End of quote. But this system of government, in order to fulfill its promises to the citizens, requires constant care and attention. During the time that we are now living, when faith in democracy and multilateral cooperation seems to be increasingly questioned and challenged, ODIHR remains ready to continue supporting all efforts toward that goal. The ODIHR final report, which will be published in the coming months, will include detailed recommendations for improving future elections in North Macedonia. As I mentioned 2 weeks ago, we hope that these recommendations will be taken seriously by all stakeholders, and we truly hope that they will serve as a constructive foundation for dialogue. Finally, our mission here would have not been possible without the support of the national staff. Some of them have supported ODIHR mission for many, many years, and we are really, truly grateful to you, and I wish to thank all of you for your dedication and integrity. I'm now happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, and thank you for your attention. And now there is time for some questions. I would like to emphasize that even though every one of you is very welcome here, this is a press conference, so we will only be taking questions from the journalists. So if you could start your question with introducing yourself and the media outlet that you represent. So, any questions? I don't think. Yeah. So, if there are no any questions, once again, thank you very much for attending our press conference. On the way out, there will be a press release printed out, and the statement of preliminary findings and conclusions will be published on the website of ODIHR. Thank you very much.
Thank you.